What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to my Dragon Quest 1 leveling video series thing where I show exactly how long it takes to grind in this game and do I guess like video logs kind of deal, stuff like that. In this video I'm going to go through levels 10 through 14. I'm not going to show all of the grinding for each level because that would be ridiculous. I'm just going to give estimates about how long each level takes with the places that I'm grinding at. Some places give you more XP for your time than others, and I'll be going over that when it's pertinent. But what I want to do today is this is actually going to be kind of like a rehearsal kind of deal. I was watching this video came up on my recommended videos called 6 Types of Loneliness by a guy named Mr. Repzion or something like that, whatever his name is. And he was talking about just, how people feel, lonely and stuff like that, and how they feel isolated socially and stuff like that. So, yeah, this is actually going to be a little bit of a response to that. I'm actually going to do it in front of the camera because I think it's a lot more important to do a video like that in front of a camera than to do it in something like this. But I mean, yeah, that's what most of these video log things are going to be in the Dragon Quest leveling series. A lot of them are just going to be rehearsals for other videos that I'm going to be doing when I'm in front of a camera, or if I'm walking or something like that. So let's get right into this. When I get to level 11, I'll stop and then I'll go over what my plans for level 11 to level 12 will be in Dragon Quest. But for now, while this is going, I'm gonna go ahead and recap Repzion's video and then kind of give advice to those who feel like they're who feel like they're alone or lonely or whatever. I don't really like that term, lonely, but whatever. We'll get through this anyways. Alright, so like I said, the guy mentioned 6 forms of loneliness, I guess. He says there's interpersonal loneliness, which kind of results after a breakup, or if you lose a friend or something like that you really care about, and you don't feel like you feel like you're estranged because of it, that you feel so lonely because you've broken up with your girlfriend and stuff like that. So yeah, and he says that's the most common, which I can understand that. He says he has mentioned social loneliness, where you can't fit into certain groups that you want to be a part of. This happens in school a lot. I mean, it happens at work a lot too, especially if you don't have a good ecosystem. I'm going to talk about the ecosystem later on. It's a real social dynamics term that I'm going to be going over. He talks about cultural loneliness, which I guess would be the same as social loneliness, only I guess it refers to more like ethnic groups or something like that, or or social culture, like Repzion saying that his girlfriend wanted him to be part of the skater scene, skater culture, and he was more like of a nerd kind of person. So it's just like if someone didn't want me to go wanted me to stop bowling so that I could play football. You know what I mean? And then I'd be like, well, I'm a bowler. What am I doing playing football? That's what I guess it's what cultural loneliness is. He talks about intellectual loneliness, which in my opinion, it's more like we'll talk like lack of a skill kind of loneliness, where you don't fit in because you suck at something, because you're not good at something and everyone else is really good at it, and that makes you feel like you're left out, which really sucks. But that can be overcome pretty easily just by being better just by, you know, not worrying about how others are doing and just doing you. But I don't want to give the advice now. I'm going to give the advice later. And then he has the form of loneliness, which in my opinion is pretty much the only legitimate form of loneliness in my opinion, which is psychological. That's where you can't fit in because you have trauma or really awful events that you don't think anyone else has gone through because you haven't met anyone else who has gone through that directly. A lot of the problems that I had growing up and even in the last few years have stemmed from this. Okay? 15 years ago, there was like a certain moment that defined my life. Okay? And I'm not going to talk about it now. I'm not even going to talk about it when I do my video form of this. But I am going to talk about it somewhere down the road. I just want to talk about it with somebody with somebody who I've talked to about it. This way, if if I get a little bit emotional while talking about it, they can kind of comfort me, or they can say their piece or something like that, and whatever. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about that now, but that is very important. And then he talks about like existential or cosmic loneliness, where you feel like you don't want to be around others because you're about to die. I was actually a victim of this. Affected by someone who had that. In particular, my dad, who died from cancer in 2006, and he didn't want anyone to be around him when he was dying, but he also wanted people to be around him. It was really weird and awful. And then when my cat died 2 years ago, I remember he really didn't want to be around me, and I had to kind of drag him towards me because I wanted to watch over him to see what I could do for him. And then he pretty much died right in front of my eyes. Really bad. Anyway, so those are the 6 types of loneliness that Repzion presents. Okay, and what I want to do right now is shift over to level 11. As you can see, I bought the full plate. I think I already have this purchased at level 10. And this is just me getting to the 3rd and 4th levels of or 2nd and 3rd levels of the Graven Garenham. So this isn't really part of the leveling from level 11 to 12, but I figure I may as well keep it because I do gain a significant amount of XP while going to my grinding spot. This is actually it becomes a much better grinding spot later on in the game when you can defend from every enemy's attacks instead of just all but one. And I'm going to talk about that later on when I actually get to the grinding spot. It's a good grinding spot because Garenham, the inn is cheaper in Garenham. The enemies give you more XP per enemy than, we'll say, to the left of Rimuldar. And you pretty much get the same amount of money per enemy too, because the strongest enemy in here, the Wrath Knight, gives up anywhere from 80 to 120 gold per enemy. And the Gold Man, which you can fight to the left of Rimuldar, gives you, I think, anywhere from 100 to 200 gold. So yeah, but only 6 XP. So, anyways, and alright, I want to talk more about loneliness here. There's no clear-cut way. There's no like, do this kind of thing to get over loneliness. Getting over loneliness and isolation and stuff like that, it requires you to put your ego aside and bust your ass. It requires you to have an open mind. These are the prerequisites, okay? It requires you to not be so proud of yourself, to admit that there is something wrong here, that, you know, that something must be done, and it requires you to be brave. It requires you to have courage. It requires you to step up, You know what I mean? To stop, to stop feeling sorry for yourself, but also to not bury yourself because you don't want to do that either, and find a happy medium in between both of those. Yeah, so those are the prerequisites. If you can't do, we'll say, half of those, then you may as well just be lonely forever. You may as well just accept it. And you can be alone without being lonely. I mean, I spend most of my time alone just doing, you know, either at work, even when I mean, not really when I'm bowling, because I'm with my buddies when I'm bowling, obviously, and when I'm working out, when I'm exercising. But, it's like half and half. I spend, like, the typical week, I'll spend half of it by myself, and the other half of it, or we'll say it's more of a 75 and a quarter. Yeah, 75% of my week I spend by myself, and the other quarter of it I spend with my bowling buddies. Okay, this is where I'm grinding in the Grave of Garanham, by the way. Yeah, and you can fight Wrath Knights here, which will do a ton of damage too. If your defense, I think, needs to be at least 65 in order for the Wrath Knights to do a lot less damage too. But now, yeah, here's me encountering one right now. I want to put him to sleep because I don't want him to. Yeah, see how much damage he just did to me. So yeah, and so what I'm doing in this wave of grinding is running from the Wrath Knights, but beating all the other enemies. But that's not really the most productive way of grinding. So, well, what I'm gonna do after this segment is go back to Rimuldar, and if you travel slightly south and slightly down and slightly left of Rimuldar, you can fight an enemy zone where you fight wolf lords, you fight wraths, you fight metal scorpions, you fight gold men, and I think that's it. So yeah, right here is what I'm talking about. Yeah, and so that gets you a decent amount of XP. Yeah. So anyways, I've discovered, and this is just personally, this is just how I've dealt with my own loneliness personally, 7 steps that you can utilize to get over your depression that is brought on by loneliness. Because a lot of depression is brought on by loneliness, okay? I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, every time someone says, man, I'm just depressed, I'm like, well, do you have people that do you have someone in your life? Do you have a date that you want to look forward to? Is there something that you do with others that you're looking forward to? Nah, not really. I'm just sitting at the house alone. And that will hurt you. So yeah, and that leads to my first step. Get the hell out of the house and be productive. Okay. And does this mean to get a job? Or get a second job if your current job isn't giving you enough hours, or if you feel really bored at your current job or whatever? Yes and no, okay? My suggestion, and this really helped me out a lot, like about a year ago when I really started breaking through, because 2011 was probably one of the worst years of my life. So, and then 2012 was slowly starting to dig myself out of the hole that I buried myself in. And I did that by getting out of the house. I did that by spending at least 8 to 12 hours out of the house. You may think, oh man, that's a lot. That's like a third to, half the day, man. And here's me beating up on some enemies outside of Rimuldar that, because my magic points are too low to heal myself. So now I say may as well beat up on wolves and skeletons and stuff, and warlocks. But yeah, if you have a full-time job and a productive hobby, which I'm gonna get into later on, then not only is it possible to be out of the house 8 to 12 hours, it's almost necessary. Okay, like look at me for example. Okay, I've worked 4 days a week for the last 3 or so weeks, So that's 8 hours, right? That's 8 hours for 4 days, and then the other 3 days I've been spending going bowling and going to the gym. Okay, that's another 8 hours. Okay, sometimes I'll go to the gym and I'll go to work, and that gives me a 12-hour day that was spent outside the house, roughly. Okay, we'll say let's average it out at 10. Okay, um, let's say I go to the gym, I go bowling, and then I go to work. Well, that's more than 12 hours, obviously. That'd probably be around 14 or 16. You know what I mean? And then let's say I go bowling, and then I go out on a date, and then I go to the gym, and then I go to work. That's probably a good 20 hours right there. That's probably 16, at least 16 hours. So if you're not finding ways to get the hell out of the house, then you need to find a way to get the hell out of the house. So aside from your job or having a nice dating life or something, what else can you do to get out of the house? You can develop what I call a productive hobby. What's a productive hobby? Okay, let's first talk about unproductive hobbies. What's an unproductive hobby? It's something you can do alone, usually in front of a screen. Screen time is a friggin' cancer in this society, okay? Because we're so addicted to it. I could spend the entire day, and I used to in 2011, I used to spend whole days or whole hours just watching YouTube stuff all day. All day. All goddamn day. Yes. How pathetic is that? Good God, it's pathetic. How boring is that? Good God, it's boring. I gained a lot of weight in the year 2011. I really did. And that was not a good thing at all. And here I am at level 12. And I'm going to be grinding in the grave of Garanham again. So I was doing very unproductive things. I was playing video games. I was watching pornography on the internet all the time. What else was I doing? I wasn't working out. I wasn't bowling as much as I wanted to. Especially in the second half of 2011. What else wasn't I doing? My work schedule was really lame. I only worked maybe 3 days a week, 3 to 4 days a week, if that. Now I fight hard for my 4 to 5 days a week because I love going. I don't love going to work, but I like being productive. You know what I mean? So those are unproductive hobbies. Anything involving screen time, anything where you're not performing the hobby with others on, we'll say a weekly basis, okay? Weekly, sometimes daily basis, alright? Certain things you can do both alone and with people, okay? Like let's go to bowling. My second my first best not best hobby, but what do you call it? My main hobby, okay? I can hit the bowling alley tomorrow before league, and I can go bowling and I can practice by myself. What I usually do is I'll bowl league with my bowling buddies at my bowling league, my team, and then there's another bowling buddy I have who we go to tournaments and stuff together, and I'll practice with him. And this does two things. One, it gets me out of the house. Two, it puts me around people because he talks to people and then I talk to people with him and stuff like that. And then we usually go to the gym after. We usually go out to eat after. We go to the gym and stuff like that. So it's productive on all ends. And he helps me with my bowling game and I help him on his. You know what I mean? So you need to find a productive hobby that you can really get excited about and that you really want to just obsess about it and use it to get leverage on yourself, okay? Leverage is an Anthony Robbins term. What does leverage mean? Leverage means that you are taking advantage of something that is not going well, okay? Instead of bitching about it, instead of feeling bad for yourself, instead of making up excuses, or at your very worst, burying yourself, telling you that you're not good enough, tell yourself, look, I have this hobby, I want to do excellent at it, I'm not doing great in it so far, but I can do way better at it than I am doing right now. You know what I mean? And once you do that, it doesn't have to be a sport. It can even be gaming. I mean, look at Darkside Phil. He was a tournament level fighting game player, okay? To be tournament level at fighting games, you need to practice your ass off. And you can't really do it in front of a CPU player because you're not fighting CPU when you're at gaming tournaments. You're fighting other players. You're playing against other players. So what did he do? He probably had a really good network of other people who were great at fighting games, and then he went from there. And he probably met a lot of really cool people because of that. You know what I mean? It's the same as bowling. It's the same as any kind of sport. It's the same as music. You know, it's the same as dancing, singing even. You know, if you have a network of other dancers, singers, video gamers, and people who play music, you know, you're gonna feed off of them, and you need to find a network of people who revolve around your hobby. And if you haven't found the hobby, then God help you. Alright. Just seeing where I am. Am I still at level 12? Yes, I am. About to get to level 13, actually. Cool. You get to level 13 at 5,500. Yeah. Level 12, I think you have to have... I forget. 4,000? Yeah, 4,000. Alright, yeah. Alright. Number 3. Know that you only matter to people who matter to you. Okay? I want to say about maybe 10 or 8 months ago, I made a video called People Are Either Objects, Tolerable Objects, or Subjects, depending on how they treat you. And I developed this little radar thing, this little circle within a circle within a circle. And, you know, depending on how nicely or how badly someone treats you, you get to either, it's your choice to either kick them off your radar completely and not care about them, just kind of care about them, but only because you're supposed to, because you have to, or, you know, involve them in your personal life. This is kind of a play on that. A lot of people who feel lonely, they feel like they don't matter to anybody. Okay, I used to feel like this all the time back in high school, especially my last year. Or, yeah, my last 2 years, actually, where I said to myself, I remember there was this kid who died, and they made a t-shirt with his face on it. And I remember, because I was very unfiltered back then, I whatever was on my mind, I said it. And, it was my goal to offend people. I'm like, I want to offend people today, yeah. And so, I would walk up. I remember I walked up to this girl who wore this shirt, and I'd be like, let me ask you something. If I were to die tomorrow, would you make a shirt with my face on it? Know what I mean? And that was because I thought that I didn't mean anything to anybody. But here's the thing. When you think like that, you're mind fucking yourself. Because you may think that you don't matter to people, but what you really want is to matter to everybody, okay? By the way, this is where I'm grinding at for levels 13 through 14. Because my defense power is at 56, or above 56, and the wyvern that you can fight in this location has an attack power of 56. The wyvern will only be able to do 1 to 10 damage on me, which makes this place a little bit better than left of Rimildar to grind, okay? And as you can see, I already did a little bit of leveling there. Anyways, when you get realistic, when you say, look, certain people matter to me more than others, so why not say that I matter to them the same way they matter to me. You know what I mean? And if you're lonely, you can find at least one person who does care about you. Okay? Usually it's your mother. For me, it was more or less my childhood friend, and then obviously the other people that I've met over the years. Never really was my mother until probably after my dad died. Okay? So alright, and step number 4, I'm going to go through things a little bit quickly now because I only have about 6 minutes. So, alright. Combine those first 2 steps. 1, get the hell out of the house. 2, use productive hobbies to get leverage. To create what is called, especially in real social dynamics in that little community of dating coaches / pickup artists and motivational speakers. That's kind of who they are. It creates what they call an ecosystem where you have solid hobbies that you can get really excited about, where you have a job that you don't mind going to every day, where it's not like torture, where it's not like a prison, you know what I mean? And usually this ecosystem makes you a really cool person to be around. You know what I mean? When I tell people that, yeah, I'm preparing for this bowling tournament in a week, and in this coming weekend, where it's what they call the Mega Bucks tournament, where if I get first place, I'll win 12 grand. People would be like, "Wow, what's your average? Can you curve the ball? Is your average 200? Oh my God, have you bowled a perfect game? All that kind of stuff." They get excited about it because you get excited about it. Because when you have that ecosystem, nothing can hurt you. You never feel lonely because you're always productive. You don't have time to feel lonely if you have an ecosystem. Alright. Number 5. Learn the fundamentals of socializing, and if you want to develop a love life, learn the fundamentals of flirting. I've gone over this in other vlogs of mine. They're very good things to learn, and you should just do it because it's good stuff. Number 6. Really quickly, because I have 2 minutes left. Go past social conditioning, follow it when it's helpful for you, and disregard what isn't. Social conditioning is what makes people lonely in the first place. We all think that we're obligated to have girlfriends or boyfriends. We all feel obligated to be married. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 31 and I don't have my shit down. You know what I mean? But in my opinion, I do, because I have a job, I have decent hobbies, I have the ecosystem that people, even if they do have a great job, don't have. Okay? So why should I worry about that? You know what I mean? Who cares if it's just a random gas station job? Big damn deal. I'm doing the best with what I have. That's what it means to go past social conditioning. Are there times where you need to follow social conditioning? Yeah, absolutely. Like, don't do stupid shit. Don't fight people. Don't hurt people. Don't, when you're horny, find a way to get the sex that you want instead of, committing sexual assault. You know what I mean? Like, those are rules that are good. Some of the rules make no fucking sense. Final step before I finish this off. Combine numbers 5 and 6 to create what I call a social universe, okay? This is where you're a leader of men. This is where you know how to socialize. You know how to flirt if you need to learn how to flirt if you want a love life. You know what kind of social conditioning works for human beings, and you know what kind of social conditioning completely destroys human beings from within, okay? That's what you need to do. I'm going to go over this a little bit more. I'm going to probably even out all the steps in my actual video, my video response to Repzion, but hopefully this helps out a little bit, alright? During these last 2 minutes, I guess I'll go over the grinding times that it took me. From levels 10 to 11, around Remildar there, that little desert area, it took 20 minutes for that. From levels 11 to 12, in between going to and forth the grave of Garenham and stuff like that, it took me 25 minutes. From levels 12 to 13, I split it in half between the Grave of Garanham and the and Left of Rimildar. It took me about 35 minutes. From levels 13 to 14, I did all of it grinding around Rimildar. Or, no, in the place you're seeing right now. And that took me 32 minutes. From levels 12 to 13, I actually spent all of it in the Grave of Garanham, fighting, all the enemies except Wrath Knights. So, yeah. There we go. That is the end of my grinding series. I do have like another minute of silence here, but that's okay. Yeah, so took me about a total of a little bit under 2 hours to do all that grinding. And that's without going to and from the Grave of Garanham, or going through it in order to get the Silver Harp. I completely bypassed this in my grinding series. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be posting more as it's necessary. This is the Big Jew telling you to keep being awesome. Peace.